So here is my second video. It's probably going to be kind of clipped together once I figure out how to do that. We had a 30-yard dumpster delivered yesterday, and we've already started filling that. It is, I don't even think it's 7 o'clock yet. No, it's 7:20, so we've been waiting for the sun to come up because it is, with daylight savings change, it has pushed back our start time a little bit. So we're kind of trying to make our game plan of what we can actually do as far as, we've already filled up a good chunk of the dumpster, and that was just last night within an hour of work. So we're trying to, what is the big stuff that we can put in there compared to the little stuff that we can do the trash bins like we have been. One of the big things that I've been learning and trying to figure out at the same time is what plants I actually want to keep. I have 2 rabbits over there right now. So I'm trying to look around, see where I should start, but the rabbits are wondering why I'm out this early. And you can hear the birds obviously too. But they're right back over there by the banana trees that aren't doing very well. But I've kind of learned so far that there are 4 categories of plants. There are native plants, which are what you really want in your yard, because we have really hurt the earth. We, being just all of our development, we are grass yards that take so much water to keep green and to look nice, that don't really do anything for the environment. Is we've done a lot of damage, and we have to fix the damage that we did. Sorry, I'm looking around at all the work I have to do. So with that said, you kind of want to go back to what's native. And I've learned that a lot of the plants, I'm probably estimating 75% of the plants in my yard are classified as introduced. They are not native to my area of Florida. They're not even really native to Florida to begin with. With that said, there's native plants, and then there's like a subcategory of that, which is native and a keystone species, which means that other like insects and animals can use that plant for their survival. So native plants are good, but keystone native plants are the best. And I'm still trying to figure out what insects, like specifically caterpillars, because I've learned that caterpillars are one of the best insects to have, because so many other species rely on them to eat them. I'm working on accepting the cycle of life right now too. That's the other thing, is like, I know that I want butterflies, but I also know that the baby birds need to eat the caterpillars. And so it's I just have to turn my yard into something that nature can thrive in, and then just kind of ignore the other parts of that. But I'm still trying to learn what insects are native to my location, and then what host plants they need in different stages of their lives, because what a caterpillar will eat is different than what the adult form of the butterfly or moth will eat. And so that's one of the things I am still working on, because it's a lot to learn something completely new. So you have your native species, and then you have the keystone native species. And then you have what is considered introduced or non-native. And with that, there are 2 categories as well. You have the category that it's not native, but it is not harmful, which means that it does not do harm to any of the native wildlife. It's not invasive, so it's not growing so rapidly that it's choking out the growth of the native plants. It is not taking over one example that I heard, which I never really considered it before, is it's called the butterfly bush, which I'm sure many people have heard of. And the butterfly bush is, for some butterflies, it is what they are designed to eat, to drink the nectar from. But the nectar is so appealing to all butterflies because of the sweet aroma in the flowers, and that butterflies who are not really designed to eat it or drink from it, they will, and they'll lay their eggs there because it gives like a false sense of this is a good food source. And then their eggs, the caterpillars, will not survive because the bush is not really designed for them. And so it's one of those things where you don't recognize that it's harmful because it's bringing in the butterflies, but it does do harm in the long run, which I thought that was a really interesting fact because I wouldn't have thought of something like that. So that's where I am trying to identify, like, because I do have a lot of smaller native plants. They look like the weeds, so to speak, that they can all stay. But the majority of what I have identified in my yard so far is, excuse me, it's been introduced. And so I'm trying to see right now, like one plant that I really love. I don't know, we've been getting a lot of the cooler nights, so not as many of the flowers are still up. But I'll show you. Hear my birds. They're very noisy. I have a plant. Oh, there's my cardinals. It's called a rubber vine. Oh, there's a rabbit. Oh, he's a little baby. I scared him. I don't think he likes to go. We have these ferns over here that are growing crazy. Oh, sorry, I'm working on my panning. Gotta go slower. We have these ferns over here that are growing crazy. And I need to cut them at some point. I cut them back at least a little bit because they are just grown wild. But the problem is I have bobwhite quail that live in there. These cute little birds. They like to hide in there. So this is my rubber plant, or my rubber vine, my mistake. And it's so beautiful. Like many people, this is one of the flowers that fell. Many people will plant it because of these flowers. They are so beautiful. And I am sad because I read last night that it's technically, it was for the Virgin Islands. This was what the report was for the Virgin Islands, but I'm assuming that it still goes for Florida as well. Somewhere in this plant, I don't know plants very good yet. I don't know if this is it right here. Yep, so this is, they said they have these brown seed pods that have over 400 seeds in each one apparently. And they are spread by the wind. And it said it will choke out your native plants. And you can kind of see it over here where it is encroaching onto my other plant, which I haven't been able to identify this plant yet either. So I'm trying, I have to get rid of it. I'll probably wait to see if I can find anything about Florida first, because I did see that in the Virgin Islands it was considered invasive. But I don't see, no, it is. So I think that this is actually part of it. This tall, spiny thing. I think that that is also part of it. I could be wrong because I haven't been able to identify that yet either. But if that is part of it, which from what I read, it does seem like it. Why is that so sandy? Oh, chainsaw. Then it is spreading because I also have it over here growing. Oh, so I got sidetracked. Like I was saying, so you have your native plants, and then you have your native keystone species, and then you have your non-native, and with those categories you have non-native and harmful, or non-native and not harmful. So anything that is non-native and harmful I have to get rid of before I leave this area though. This is, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is the coolest plant. And what's interesting about this, the thorns are ridiculous, but what's interesting is the pink area, which looks like it'd be the flower, that is actually the leaf. And the flower, I'm looking right down, the flower is actually this white tiny flower that's on the inside. Oh, I have bugs on it. So that is something that I learned that's very cool. I have to trim it back though. Oh, sorry. I get a little spooked sometimes when I'm walking around because I'm still getting used to the wildlife. And what's funny is we have these anoles, which are these little, kind of like little lizard things, and they're not very big. They're actually very small. And, but when they run, they are so loud and they will rustle the bushes so badly, and it will spook me and I will jump. And, but they're just the tiniest little things. And so it's funny that something so little can spook you so much. So I'll probably end this video here and then I'll show you on the other side, or I guess while we're back here, we have, it's just like insane. Like we have to clean him up, obviously. We have all this bamboo over here. And it's insane how much we have. And I'm trying, like I said, anything that's not native, I would like to get rid of, so then I can turn this more back into the normal habitat and help bring back the biodiversity that we are so desperately needing. But yeah, for now, I will end it so I can go get to work, and then I will probably take some more videos later to add to this. Now I'm going to be switching to a voiceover. This was one of our Indian mango trees that was severely damaged. The way it had just grown, it was growing sideways and it wasn't really good for it. We were originally going to cut it down. That was the advice of the arborist, but I convinced Rich, because it was growing some fruit still, so I convinced Rich just to cut the branches that were growing sideways to see if it would still grow and thrive the way it was. So this is really the part 2 of our second video, just kind of wrapped into one. And you can see this is the back area that we're working on, where the palm tree piles are just, here's a pile over here, and all back here is where we found, when we first moved in, we found chicken coops and like rabbit hutches that we broke down before, when we've had the first 30-yard dumpster. And here are these just huge overgrown palms. And it's not even that they're overgrown, it's just they're so massive and there's so much around them that it really, like, here are the logs, right? That just all this stuff that we really need to clean out. Over this way you can see more these piles that we are finding, where it is just, we don't really know what's in them until we get in there and work on them. Sometimes it is just palm branches. Other times it has been logs and palm branches. And sometimes it is stone. Sometimes it is garbage. Over here we have these, like this yellow color is where the nutrients are being sucked from the higher levels of the palm. So, and it might need magnesium or potassium or something. I really don't know yet. Here is the vines that are just taking over. This is a bird of paradise plant. And in a second, I will be showing you, because right now I'm not realizing it's a bird of paradise yet until I see those black heads, which in a healthy plant, it'd be these beautiful colored, like they're the bird of paradise. That is the flower. Ours is not healthy. It is being choked out by the vines and the palms and the piles. So that's really what we're working on. Now it is the Bismarck palms that you can see. I am kind of going under and just showing you like what needs to get cleaned out over here. Over here are the massive Bismarcks that are just so large and like insanely huge. And the issue we're running into is we have these palms, or we still do, because I am now voice overing this. I am going back and rewatching it to kind of make it make more sense. But we have these palms that are growing underneath them. And here's our oak tree. The oak tree, previously, I don't know if it was the previous owners or the owners before them, they cut the root of the oak. And so now it is just leaning and it's not safe. And so we had to cut that down. Over here, we just have the wild jungle of bamboo and palms. And that is another project we'll be working on, is clearing that out. But going back this way, here we have like this palm tree right here that is right in front of the Bismarck palms, and it is growing underneath it. And this one also, same thing. It's growing right up under the Bismarcks. And the Bismarcks have such massive leaves. They are just so widespread that this is one of the feathering palms. And the palm fronds, I believe they're called, are just skinnier and more delicate. And they don't stand a chance against those Bismarck wide palms. So we decided that those palm trees would need to be removed because someone was going to lose that battle, and it was not going to be the Bismarcks. Over here, I am finding the more piles. This is the other side of the piles I had shown you previously, where it is just who knows what really. We have palm trees that they had cut down previously and just stacked those cut up logs in there. Palm branches again. Really, it's a mystery until we get in there. And I always go in with the rake first because with my luck, there's going to be a snake or a spider or something that I don't want to reach my arm in there and find. Over on this side, I picked back up. This is the third part of my video. And I'm working on, these are the palm branch, like I believe they're acacia palms. I'll have to look it up. I can't remember for sure. But essentially, they are a self-cleaning palm, which means when they are done with sucking the nutrients, they shed the palm frond or the palm branch by themselves. But the issue is the way they have fallen is they are kind of just all bunched up within the palm trunks. But it's really easy. This type is because they are self-cleaning. So you just kind of go in there and you reach in and you pull them out. The biggest thing that we're really struggling with right now is it's not just general maintenance that we're doing. A lot of it is catch up. We have so much that the previous owners didn't really care to. And I get it. Like, it's not everyone, one, either wants to pay someone to do it, or two, wants to do it themselves. But hopefully, once we get caught up and we get all of these piles and everything just cleaned up, then in the future it will just be more of the maintenance where you go around and you pick up those few branches that have been shed here or there. You're not digging out piles and piles of stuff. Like you can see there's just so all of those like going down to the end of our property, and the same way going the other way. That all needs to be cleaned out. And so much of it is just like, and down here, like we're having to rake out the piles of stuff that we're finding. And here is our final video of the day. This is where we ended. We have that pile of the palm branches. That one, I actually had put some of them in the dumpster earlier, but at this point our dumpster is so full that those are easy enough to put in the trash bins that we're just going to do that and use the dumpster really for the bigger things. And you'll see when we pan over this way, this was the garbage we found under one of those piles. It has like those plastic planting pots and the stones, the paving stones. They were just like buried under there for who knows why. We've had our dumpster for a day. It was delivered sometime Friday when we were at work, and then 6 o'clock on Saturday. It is done. Well, that's where we ended for the day. And it is very full. A lot of it is, we did cut down that oak tree I showed you earlier. And with the oak branches, they are just so randomly sprawling. Like, they don't have a rhyme or reason. They're just very fluffy in the sense that they grow everywhere. But I'm hoping that tomorrow when we throw in the palm logs that I'm showing you right now, and once we throw those in, it will kind of weigh down the oak branches that we've already gotten in there. And then over here we have the trunk of the oak tree as well, that just that having that like solid weight will kind of shove down the oak branches. And then from there we can kind of see like, hey, these long awkward palm branches, they can go in. But if they can't, then it's fine. Because we also have other trees that we would like to get cut down. And because they're just so heavy, we aren't allowed to put them in our weekly trash bins that we do. Whereas the palm branches are very light, those can go in. The piles of leaves that we have that we need to rake, those can go in. So it's one of those things where you're kind of needing to prioritize the big awkward stuff that needs to get taken care of when the dumpster is here. What's sad is we actually had the dumpster for 2 weeks. That's what the rental period is. And we've gotten so much of it done already. And there's no, if you get done with it in 2 days, you can turn it in and then you get like the rest of the money back. There's not like a fee for that. So I'm hoping if we do fill it up early, maybe I can pay them a certain amount of money and have them just come and dump it. And then that way we can fill it back up within that 2 weeks. I don't know if they'll do that. But now this is where we cut down those palms, and the Bismarcks are now free to grow and do what they need to do. These are the palm branches that got cut down. Like I was saying, those are like the feathery palms. So they're just not as like strong and like, I guess, heavy duty as those Bismarcks. So growing up through those really large Bismarck palms, they wouldn't have been able to thrive. So that's why we decided to take those ones out. Over here, I'm just kind of showing you again the amount of piles that we're trying to get caught up with. Like here, it's just pile after pile that needs to get cleaned out before we can really start focusing more on finding the native species and having them planted. Once we get this area cleaned out, we'll have so much more room to plant the native species, the keystone species, that will allow the insects, allow the birds, allow the wildlife to thrive. So that's really kind of where we're at with that. I am still working on my panning. I know I probably gave many of you motion sickness. I gave myself motion sickness watching that back. So it kind of sucks because I would like to re-record a lot of it, but it was a before and after where I can't really go back and do the before again. So thank you guys for sticking with me as I am figuring this out.